coming to you with the KBR Sports Podcast. You know, the best sports podcast of your 24-hour day. Definitely taking a different spin on the podcast today, and going to be actually making a full video with this one. I made videos in the past, but this is definitely going to be one of the most in-depth videos I've done. So hopefully this is for hardcore basketball fans. I think that a lot of times I do videos that are on the base surface. Everybody kind of understands what I'm trying to say with these videos, but this video is definitely a unique take, and it's not one of those things that the mainstream media is talking about and that everybody's going on about. I think this was just one of those videos I genuinely believe and had a thought about, and it was about one of the greatest players of all time, Shaquille O'Neal, and I wanted to just kind of take people back to how good Shaq was and how good he could have been if he would have entirely fulfilled his potential. So guys, tune into this video, stay tuned for the rest of it, and obviously, like I always say, make sure you guys go check out Fanatics, you know, the best sports brand in apparel and memorabilia. Fanatics can take care of you guys with the upcoming seasons of the NFL. Then obviously with the NBA going to be coming back in October. Obviously, Fanatics is the best choice in terms of apparel and memorabilia and everything like that. So make sure you guys give a call to 954-507-6928 so that way you guys get your discounts. And make sure you click on the code below so that way you guys can follow my link to my website and you can see the rest of my content in the link in the description. So guys, stay tuned for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, guys.
So when it comes to the conversation of the greatest of all time in the NBA, it is a space where the answer changes based on who you ask. Some say Michael Jordan, some say LeBron James, and some even say Magic Johnson. The debate has become predominantly a wing conversation. However, it wasn't always that way. The NBA was a big man's league where giants like George Mikan, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Hakeem Olajuwon dominated the league. Each left their own imprint in a unique but dominant way. Bill Russell led the greatest dynasty in NBA history to winning 11 championship seasons in 13 years of playing. He is regarded as the greatest winner and one of the greatest defenders of all time. He's known as the primary roadblock in the way of Wilt Chamberlain winning multiple championships. Wilt, originally being the most dominant force in the game, was a walk-in mismatch for every team. He was nearly the perfect combination of height, speed, and strength in an NBA player. Nothing gives more credence to his dominance than his personal record with the most points scored in an NBA game at 100. Then there was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a man whose resume gives him worthy claim to being the greatest of all time. He was the Rookie of the Year, was All-NBA 15 times, All-Defensive Team 11 times, had 2 scoring titles, won 6 MVPs, 6 championships, and 2 Finals MVPs. Not to mention he created the single most unguardable move in NBA history with the skyhook, which led to him being the NBA all-time leading scorer. Another big who took on the mantle after Kareem was Hakeem the Dream, the man whose footwork was pure wizardry, that his patented move in the post became known as the Dream Shake. His mastery of the post game has even led to other greats such as Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and others to seek him out in the efforts to establish their post games. However, for all the talent and skill each of them possessed, none of them were Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal should have been the greatest player of all time. He is known as the most dominant force in NBA history with good reason. Many regard Wilt, Michael Jordan, or LeBron James as the most athletically gifted players to ever grace a basketball court. But a strong case can be made that it was actually Shaq. He could run the floor like LeBron, soar through the air like Michael, but also bring down a hoop like only Shaq could. Seriously, there's plenty of footage of Shaq bringing down multiple hoops on the rims. Check it out after you watch this video. But everyone knew Shaq was destined to be a dominant force in the NBA when he was coming out of LSU. Wilt might be the only comparison to the dominance Shaq brought onto the basketball court, although not even Wilt matched the overall size and mass Shaq displayed. According to Basketball Reference, Wilt stood at 7'1", 275, while Shaq was 7'1", 325. Shaq was just a different breed versus the competition. The best way to summarize it is comparing an elite high school player playing with middle schoolers. He treated opposing big men on the court like they were rag dolls whenever he started his back down, and they fell back so much that he could just explode into a dunk. Many remember his time in Los Angeles when citing Shaq's pure dominance, which was his peak as a player. However, Shaq was in the best shape of his career during his first 4 years in Orlando. He was incredibly durable during that time period, in which he only missed 7 total games and played in 81 games twice. Shaq was much more slender during those days, so he was incredibly agile and graceful, but still aggressive and powerful. He would lead the fast break off of his own rebounds and create for either himself or his teammates. The way someone of that size could make it from end to end so fast was a sight to behold. Shaq was such a force that he led the Orlando Magic to the NBA Finals in his 3rd season at the age of 22. He was truly the Superman trump card that he nicknamed himself. Things would eventually change for Shaq once he left Orlando for LA. He was leaving small market Orlando, going to the bright lights of Hollywood where he was a perfect fit. Shaq to this day has one of the most magnetic personalities in the room, which is why he's a perfect fit in entertainment. It is a personality that is so magnetic that everyone wanted a piece of Shaq in Hollywood. It wasn't long before you saw him in movies, Kazam, music videos, and other forms of entertainment. However, with his split interests, Shaq's physical upkeep did take a dip. There were multiple sources that cite Shaq saying he wanted to put on weight so people could not move him off the block when jostling for position. But they're strategically putting on weight and maintaining peak form in the manner that LeBron has done. Then there's gaining weight but still being good enough to be better than everyone else, which is what Shaq did. He even admitted to it in his one-on-one interview with Kobe Bryant. He says, "I admit a lot of the times I didn't come into camp ready. My thing is I don't need to get ready for dunking. I'll get ready when I get ready." It's not that Shaq didn't work hard. It's just that he worked hard enough. Just hard enough. He was still the best player in the league for years with the Lakers and was incredibly dominant. There was no game plan to stopping Shaq one-on-one, double, and triple teams. None of it mattered. He could find a way to either score for himself or create a scoring opportunity for a teammate. It was evident that Shaq worked consistently on his game with the various maneuvers he had at his disposal. Regardless of the mask Shaq put on, he still maintained his light feathery touch in conjunction with his sheer power, a skill that can go underappreciated on the surface. Shaq was almost automatic on the block and in the painted area with his size and touch. If there was one way to stop Shaq, it was at the free throw line. He was so imposing that teams got to a point where it was more efficient for them to send him to the free throw line than to defend him straight up. It is a method that's now known as the Hack-a-Shaq. Shaq shot 52.7% from the free throw line for his career, and this was one of the holes in Shaq's game, where if he would have at least been an average free throw shooter, he could have been a better player. Think about this. Shaq shot 11,252 free throws during the regular season and made 5,935. If he makes 75%, which is league average, he would have scored an additional 2,504 points from the line. That would raise his career average per game from 23.7 to 25.7. If he shot 75% from the free throw line, the Hack-a-Shaq probably would have never been created, since he would be more than likely to convert on both free throws. There are more opportunities for Shaq or his teammates to score, which automatically makes the team tougher to defend. Despite his free throw shooting, Shaq did produce when he was on the court. The problem is that injuries forced him to be on the court less as time passed. Shaq also did not accelerate the process to getting back on the court when he had injuries during the offseason. Instead, he was firm in his stance that he got hurt on company time, so he'd get healthy on company time. A mentality that was just one factor in the eventual split that he had from Kobe Bryant. Some summarize that part of the reason Shaq was hurt so often is because he was carrying so much weight at all times, which is why his injuries often were to his lower body. It's scary to wonder how much better Shaq could have been if he would have worked to maximize his talent. He most likely would have stretched out his prime even further and would have been dominating full seasons instead of playing into shape throughout seasons. LeBron James is currently 33 years old and is the best player in the NBA. Many stars such as Kobe, Kareem, Michael, and others stretched out their prime into their mid-30s, still being a top 5 player. Shaq was still a great player in Miami, but he wasn't the undisputed best player in the league despite his talent. It feels as though Shaq suffers from the Randy Moss complex in a lot of respects, where his talent projected for him to possibly be the best ever, but he didn't buy into that notion himself. It's hard to argue that Shaq didn't live up to his full potential when you see his full resume of 4 titles, 3 finals MVPs, a regular season MVP, and so much more. To this day, his finals series against the Indiana Pacers is one of the greatest finals performances of all time. He averaged 38 points on 61% shooting from the field and 38.7% from the free throw line. He also averaged 16.7 rebounds and 2.7 blocks. But wrap your mind around this. Shaq averaged 15.5 free throws a game during that series and hit 38.7% of them, which is 36 of 93 free throws. If he would have made 70% of the 93 free throw attempts, he would have scored an additional 29 points. So instead of averaging 38 points per game, his average would have jumped to 42.8 points per game. That's insane. That 99-2000 season was one of the greatest displays of individual greatness in NBA history and Shaq's lone MVP season. He was in pursuit of his first ring and out for blood. He put up averages of 29.7 points per game on 57.4% shooting, 13.6 total rebounds, 3.8 assists, 3 blocks, and was a runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. If Shaq was able to duplicate this individual season times over, it's not beyond the realm of comprehension he'd have more MVPs and be in the GOAT conversation. Shaq was amazing in so many respects, but it still feels like there was more to be desired at times. No one could handle Shaq physically, and that should have been the case for a few more years than it was. Shaq is a top 10 all-time NBA player hands down, but he had the greatest of all-time talent. He should have been the greatest player of all time. The story of Shaquille O'Neal will always be that he was great, but what he should have been was so much better. It's KBR Sports with Brendan Abin, your favorite sports talk show of your 24-hour day. Remember, y'all, if you ever wanted a central location where you can find my own content, you can find it at my new website, brendanabin.com, which has episodes of the podcast, my blog, and other content you can only find on brendanabin.com. So make sure you go check that out. And also follow and subscribe to the KBR Sports Podcast on Rabble, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and of course on here on YouTube. So you see the videos like this one that I'm doing, and that way you'll receive notifications whenever the KBR Sports Podcast is streaming live or when our new episode is posted. And also make sure you follow the KBR Sports Twitter page. There are links, topics, and podcast updates that are tweeted on there, so go check that out. And finally, make sure you comment, like, and share your favorite KBR Sports Podcast episodes and the different videos that I'm posting. I definitely appreciate the support from you guys. I want to hear your opinions on any of the topics I talk about. Do you think Shaq had all-time talent? Do you think that Shaq didn't live up to his talent? Do you think he didn't maximize it? Do you think that I'm overrating how great Shaq could have been or Shaq was? I want to hear your opinions on that. Let me know in the comments section on either the podcast or on YouTube. Want to engage with you guys. I want to know what your opinions are on this, because I definitely have a opinion of how much I feel like Shaq should have been and how much more he could have been. And I know everybody's opinion doesn't align with mine, so let me hear what you guys have to say. So guys, I'm going to check out the comments whenever you guys put them down after the video and everything. But until next time, guys, I'll see you later.